Hello and welcome. I'm a hotel AI expert, and I am so pleased to welcome all of you, the students of Europe Hotel School, to your online learning journey. Today, we're diving into a concept that is, without a doubt, the foundation of excellence in our industry. It's called the control environment, and it's what separates a good hotel from a truly great one. So, what is this control environment? Well, think of it as the personality or maybe even the conscience of your hotel. It's not something you can just point to in a manual or see on a balance sheet. It's the invisible force that shapes every decision, every action, every single day. It's the foundation that everything else is built on. All right, so how do we build this foundation? We're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll talk about why this invisible foundation matters so much. Then we'll get into the role of leadership or the tone from the top. We'll look at how your values can act as a compass, the critical role of HR, and finally, how to close the loop with accountability to make it all stick. So first up, why is this so critical specifically in hospitality? Our industry is all about people. The guest experience, the quality of our service, it all boils down to the thousands of small decisions our team members make every single day. A strong control environment is what makes sure all those actions are consistent, they're ethical, and they're always aiming for excellence. Now, this right here is a really important idea. Think about it. In a hotel, we empower our department heads, from the restaurant manager to the head of housekeeping, to make calls on the spot. And that freedom can lead to amazing performance. But if you don't have a strong ethical foundation guiding them, that same freedom can open up some pretty big risks. The control environment is literally the thing that decides which way it's going to go. Okay, so where does it all begin? It always starts at the top. This brings us to our next pillar. Tone from the top. It's a pretty simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful, and it's this. What leaders do is so much more important than what they say. And you can see the difference so clearly here. On the left, you have leaders who are building a culture of accountability. They follow the process, they ask the hard questions, they tackle issues right away. But on the right, that's where things fall apart. When a manager ignores a policy just because it's convenient, they're sending a message to the whole team that the rules don't really matter. It proves that your culture isn't what you preach, it's what you permit. One path builds trust, the other just destroys it. And that's the real takeaway here. True ethical leadership, the kind you're learning about institutions like Europe Hotel School London, isn't just a passive thing. It's not just about not doing bad things. It's about actively promoting fairness, responsibility, and respect every single day. You're trying to build a positive culture, not just prevent a negative one. That brings us right into our values. You see, if leadership is setting the tone, your organization's values are the compass that everyone else uses to navigate. They provide the framework that helps every employee at every level make the right call, especially in those tricky situations where there isn't a specific rule to follow. We all know these values, right? Honesty, trust, professionalism. But let's make it practical. Take a value like stewardship of resources. When that's a real part of your culture, what happens? Your staff starts treating the hotel's assets, linens, equipment, supplies, with care, almost like they owned them. That becomes a really powerful, informal control that saves money and reduces waste. But how do you take a big idea like guest trust and make it, well, real? It's a 3-step process. First, you establish the value. Then you create a standard, like a code of conduct, that actually defines what that value looks like in practice. And finally, that standard is what guides an employee when they're handling a real-world situation, like a guest complaint. And the most important part? It has to apply to everyone, from the general manager right down to the newest hire. No exceptions. All right, let's talk about the engine room for all of this, human resources. This is where the rubber really meets the road. It's where your culture and your control environment are brought to life. This chart breaks it down perfectly. It all starts with hiring for integrity, bringing people on board who already share your values. Then you have to train them consistently, not just on how to do the job, but on your policies and your ethics. And finally, you set performance goals that reward not just what people achieve, but how they achieve it. These aren't just items on an HR checklist. They're how you build a strong foundation. And here's a word of warning for all of you as you move into management roles. We all know the pressure to hit financial targets can be huge. But if you put that pressure on your team without an equal focus on doing things the right way, you are basically creating a recipe for misconduct. People will cut corners. Real sustainable success only happens when you align performance with responsibility. And that leads us perfectly to our final and honestly most essential pillar. You can have the best leaders, the best values, the best policies in the world, but if nothing happens when people break the rules, the whole system is worthless. Accountability is what gives it all teeth. It's what makes it matter. This is it. This is the question that truly defines how strong your control environment is. What happens? Is there a process? Is it fair? Is it consistent? The answer tells your employees everything they need to know about whether you're serious about your own standards. A really solid accountability process looks like this. A violation occurs, it gets investigated fairly and objectively. Action is taken, and it's consistent for everyone, no matter their position. And here's the key. You use it as a chance to learn and make your processes even better. The goal here isn't to create a culture of fear, it's to build a culture of trust and confidence that the system works for everyone. So, in the end, who's responsible for the control environment? The answer couldn't be simpler. Everyone. It requires a 100% commitment from every single member of the team. This isn't just a management job or an HR job. It's everyone's job. So, we've seen how it all fits together, right? The tone from the top, your values, your people practices, and real accountability, they all lock together to create this incredible foundation of trust and excellence. It's the invisible architecture of every great hotel. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. As a future leader in this industry, how will you build your own foundation?